very much for joining us on this great Friday afternoon. Is it snowing where you are? It's snowing here in Chicago and some other places I know of. And I thank you very much for joining us here on the Modern Job Search Checklist. My name is Mark, and of course, as always, Damian Burkles here hanging out with me. He is a two times author, always available to help people. He's helped more than 10,000 job seekers throughout his years of running professionals in transition. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing fine, and I always like to point out that there's no way that all of those people could have been served in person or online without all of our volunteers. It's a we
Mhm.
effort, not a me effort. But thank you, Mark. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you. And with us today is Rona Barnett-Pierce. And for some reason, I want to say Barrett, but I know it's Barnett. Bad me. Sometimes I just can't read. But anyway, if you want to get to know her, follow her. If you're on LinkedIn, just follow her profile. You'll be better for it. And she is one of the latest LinkedIn voices of 2022, which is a huge honor. Thank you very much for joining us. And I know it's busy. It was hard to get you. We had to go through agents and all your gatekeepers and everything to get you to come.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to
Sure.
be here.
Sure. Now, you're the first personal brand strategist that we've had on the show that, well, really, all of us in the career space, we're somewhat personal brand strategists as part of it. I mean, you can't help but to do one part or the other, but you focus mostly on personal brand strategy and video. So tell us a little bit about how what type of clients, or maybe even how you came upon doing this.
Yeah, so I work with overlooked professionals, and I started doing this because I myself was an overlooked when I first moved here. I lived in Panama, that's where I was born and raised, and I moved here 12 years ago to the US. After having a successful career, moving here and then trying to get a job, no one knows you. No one knows anything about you. You just send
Mm,
resumes in, and no one like contacts you for interviews. So that's when I started using video to get in front of the people that the decision makers. I think a lot of people, when they saw my resume, thought she's a foreigner, maybe doesn't speak English, all of that. So by using video, I was able to show them who I was and what I brought to the table. And these are the types of clients that I work with. So overlooked professionals, anyone trying to break into an industry that they haven't been in, anyone who's an immigrant who has moved, anyone who's just trying to level up in their career and for whatever reason, whatever roadblock isn't able to.
yeah, that's it. Now, in Panama, what did you do? You said you had a successful career. You were doing what?
So I'm a software engineer. That's what I went to school for. And I worked as a software project manager in Panama. I also started on the side working in the talent acquisition space. So that's what I was
Oh,
doing back.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So, currently, you no longer work in the software engineer industry. You're taking a break, or do you still work in that industry?
Actually, as of recently, I've taken a break. I was working as a software project manager
Hmm.
last year. That's just something I did. I had retired in my mind for a few
Hmm.
years. But anytime there's a good project or a good company that I'm interested in, and they reach out, I'm open to the possibility, and that's what I was doing until recently. But now I'm fully focused on my business and on the personal branding, and I do talent acquisition consulting as well.
Uh,
Good deal. Damien, do you have any questions?
it, as we get into our conversation, Rona, I am very interested in your video strategy, how you do it, some of the phenomenal results that you have, because this is the first guest, and I've had the privilege of doing this with Mark for well over a year now, that has talked about strategically using video not only to get in front of people, but to make that leapfrog onto their next level or whatever by using video, and also how you have utilized that to help women who are underrepresented and underpaid crack through and up and in and get the equal salary that they deserve. And we can do that throughout. But that's just something that I'm very curious about. And I know not only are you a very strong advocate, but you're also extremely effective at that. So as we go through our chat, kind of keep that in the back of your mind, because you don't hear or see, or I don't anyway, have come across somebody that is as effective as you are in the market segment that you are in, building and growing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's you've touched on things that are my passion, especially helping underrepresented women get paid what we deserve, and yeah, all through personal branding and especially video strategy.
Yeah, I probably video changes the way that you're perceived as it is, right? I mean, as soon as somebody sees you on video, sees you talking, and sees you talking passionately, either answering questions or during your presentation, it kind of it changes the conversation to uh, just being investigative to now wanting to know about the person and what they're really worth and the value, uh, how it may fit their company, because that's automatically that's a reaction, a normal reaction to somebody who really is looking to work with somebody who's effective in those areas to help them personally and to help their company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you've totally hit the nail on the head with that one, because with video, I always like to say it makes you human. It makes you more than a resume, more than a LinkedIn profile. Because, I mean, as a recruiter, when I read someone's resume or LinkedIn profile, you read it through you put your spin on what they're saying,
Hmm.
because that's just human. You have to read it in some voice. But when you hear someone and see them on video, it immediately, whatever you were thinking is gone, because you can see what they are conveying and how you can see their passion, and it totally changes how an interview goes. And I've
Hmm.
done this. I've done the test. I've applied to jobs cold without my video, and I've gotten jobs that are someone reaches out because they've seen my video or I've used my video to apply, and the way the interview goes is 100% different, because when someone has seen my video, they're not asking me this, I call them annoying interview questions, like,
Sure.
oh, so tell me about yourself and where do you see yourself in 5 years? They've already known a little about that before, and they want to ask me actual questions of things
Hmm.
that, okay, let's get to it. So, hey, I saw this video where you were talking about this. What's your approach? How do you do this? Like, interviews become something where I'm having to be like, wait, am I giving too much info at this point? Am I working for free? At some point, it's finding that balance, because they already feel that they know you and trust you. So they're ready to like ask you really good, like, you get to know more about what you're going to be doing on the job after they've seen your video and asked you.
Interesting. I like that, and I've always believed that. I believe that, for most people, they don't want. Most people expect the resume to be a magic wand.
Mm-hmm.
They expect it to do everything for you, and that the employer sees this halo over your head saying that you're the one, and let the process begin. And it doesn't work that way at all. You've got to create the magic, and you've got to create some kind of work and interest for people to demand you. Otherwise, yeah, you are going to go through the arduous, long, gated process of applying and having to ask all those annoying questions, like, where did you get started, and all those kind of questions. It's like, oh, Lord, can we get that? So yes, I think that's where people misunderstand They think that you want to be they want to be famous should they want something, an optimized personal brand, and that's not it at all. You just have to look like you are the person that they need for their company. If that's all you want, you can position yourself that way.
Yeah, I'm an introvert. I definitely do not want to be famous. That, and the clients that I work with are usually in the same spot. Like, I don't know how to help someone to be famous, so I'm not working with that. It's just someone who, like you said, the resume is. You can have the best resume, and I know awesome resume writers that I recommend, and I have my clients work with.
Hmm.
It doesn't. It just misses that personal touch to it. And
Mhm.
it's
Hmm.
not this magical thing. Just you and your personal brand and what you put out there is what like really helps control that narrative and show people what you really bring to the table.
And
Yeah.
Rona, I have a question. We've had human resource managers in transition saying things like, if a human resource manager gets a video resume, they don't open it and they throw it away because of fear of EEOC. How has that changed dramatically, or how have you? How has your strategy work around that?
So I have very, very strong opinions on that. To be honest, yes, there's some people that are afraid of that. I
Mhm.
personally, and no offense to anyone who does it, do not work with people who are afraid of that. And here's the reason. Most of the time, when someone is saying, oh, don't use video, or I'm not going to watch a video because I don't want to be accused of
Mhm.
racism or bias, it's
Mhm.
because there is some of that happening. Um,
Mhm.
and it, that's just been my experience and the experience of my clients. I do think it's changing a lot. And I always say to anyone who says that, so you don't go to their LinkedIn profile, you don't look at their picture, you don't Google them. I don't believe that.
Yeah,
Right,
I
and that's
think
why.
really. Go ahead,
I'm
Damien.
sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to jump over you. That was kind of what I was thinking. Um, here in the South, there are there's a lot of fear, and when it comes to applying for jobs, I encounter it all the time, and it sometimes it's a strong process to get people over the fear of putting their picture on LinkedIn for that very reason. And I agree with you, by the way. I mean, I feel very strongly. And the other thing is, there's no such thing as privacy anymore. And so instead of hiding who you are, it's a time for you to pump up and market who you are, the person that you are, where you have come from, what you look like. Yeah, it's important, but when it comes to hiring somebody, you're hiring their transferable skills, their ability to play well in the sandbox. And I would think that video, the way that you guide people through it, would really do that and get people over, like you said, those annoying questions. And your choice, it never occurred to me to just not work with people who are afraid. So good for you.
And I always like to tell the story of so I initially created a video because I wasn't getting interviews. But then fast forward a couple of years, I was probably at my third or fourth um, version of my video. But this particular company that had reached out to me, I think only their recruiters had seen me in my video, but that they did like the blind interviewing where the rest of the hiring managers never saw me or never knew anything about me. And it was like
Hmm.
5 to 7 phone interviews that I had. And then they finally flew me to their location. And I remember it was like the week of Christmas. So a few days before Christmas, they flew me to this very snowy place. And I'm not a fan of snow. Um, and I get there, and the face of the person that was interviewing me when they saw who I was is something that I can't forget. And she said something like, "Oh, by your voice, I wasn't expecting you to dress this way." And I was like, I'm wearing a black suit. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone they've interviewed or most people interviewed wears a black suit. So clearly there was a lot behind what she was saying. Obviously, I did not get that job. And that's when I was like, absolutely not. Everyone I interview with will see me because I will not waste time. I will not fly somewhere. I will not go through 7 interviews to then find out at the end that this bias that we were trying to remove by not looking at me is still going to be there.
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
I think one of the things that really changed through the years now, the past couple of years, is that if people are really looking for you, they're going to they'll find you,
Mhm.
and it'll be really they've already decided this is the type of person that I want, as opposed to before they had to guess, so to speak, in many ways. But I think what's the other advantage that's really talked about these days is that video now. I mean, we are kind of like one click away in a lot of ways to have videos being searched by the search engines. So what you say in a video will be able to be transcribed automatically through Google. I use a software for my podcasts and for some of the videos that I use. When I upload it, it is able to upload the sound and the video, and I can edit the video at the same time for the podcast, and I can have it appear not only in the podcast directories but also on YouTube with the same exact edit and the transcription, complete transcription as well. So we're really that close to being, having everything that we say on video searchable. So I don't know exactly how it will all migrate, but I imagine every single video that we think that is not going to matter will matter because Google will be able to search it. But if you are it, or if you're creating a personal brand, that's great news because
Mhm.
then people will capture more of what you're saying. You'll get more attention, especially from recruiters and employers, because then they have a broader means to be able to use the technology to find even better candidates because of the medium that they use. Right now, you can search the video and find the video, but you got to listen to the whole video. When we get to Google, they'll be able to Google phrase or the person and find the video or whatever medium they use, in which it includes video. So that's something that we really have to take into account when people think about video. Is really another great opportunity to be found by an employer or a recruiter in the long term. Even if you don't want to be famous, if you are truly in your niche and you're using the terms they're searching for, you know, you're not going to be found by American Idol. you're going to be you're going to be you're going to be found by Microsoft or Google or whatever company is using those particular tools. So that's really a major key in keeping those things in mind.
And we don't even have to think that far in the well, it's not that far in the future. It's pretty close, as you
No,
said.
we're just, I said, one click away. We're,
Yeah.
we're that close.
Even now, just YouTube is really the second largest search engine out there. And I was seeing some stats also of TikTok also being used as a search engine. So having videos on these platforms and obviously LinkedIn as well. But
Hmm.
the searchability on YouTube and like TikTok of your videos, if you add the right keywords and things like that, is also really going to help you be at the top and rank in Google when people are searching for
Yeah.
these specific things. And like you said, American Idol and Hollywood isn't really searching for customer service agent. Um,
Or a software engineer.
exactly, the software engineer. It's the recruiters, it's the hiring managers. So
Yeah.
it's not a fame thing. It's a using the tools that you have available and leveraging social media for your job search.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for answering our initial questions and people getting to know you. And I hope people will use this opportunity to start following you. And if they need your services, perhaps to start to engage that part of the conversation. But let's go ahead and answer a few questions. We've got a lot of things going on. I do want to get you guys' take on, of course, the latest Better debacle. And just think you couldn't get any worse. Uh, they managed to finally get worse, but there is a small silver lining to all this. And for those of you who are just kind of coming from under your pillows or from under the rock that you were on, Better decided to, well, they, by mistake, they sent people severance before they told them that they were laid off. And we couldn't make that up. I tried searching movies for it, and that has never been made up before. So I imagine that that is just a new caveat, the way to say, we really can care less about you. But having said that, I was doing some research late last night, and I saw where the CEO actually showed a little bit of a heart because somebody bought out a point out of those 3,000 that he happened to lay off, or was it 4,000? I think it was 4,000 that he laid off. They were a lot of expecting parents, people who are expecting babies and things. So he said that either the company or he'll pay personally the insurance for those people. After I thought that's nice, but you still screwed up.
Oh,
you still,
yeah.
yeah, you still screwed up, and that's nice, and that's a good start. But people deserve a whole lot more dignity. And since Rona, you're our guest, we'll let you go first and just offer a comment. Maybe you can even talk about even just how video might even help in layoffs. To get discovered and to even put yourself out there even quicker than you would going through a regular job process.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's worked in people ops, who's had to do mass layoffs, just
Hmm.
seeing how they handle that was something that was shocking. But yeah, having your personal brand is something that you should work on even when you're not actively looking. So even while you're on a job. So it's like uh, I'll share an example. In 2016, I was working at a startup that had to lay off 50% of their employees. That's what I did.
Hmm.
I participated in it, and I was the last person to be laid off. So although I kind of had a heads up, I didn't officially know. That being said,
Hmm.
because I already had my personal brand and because I already had a video, it was literally a LinkedIn post away of, hey guys, today was my last day at blah blah. Here's I'm looking, here's a video sharing what I do. I just reshared a post. I got
Hmm.
interviews pretty much a couple of weeks later. Um,
Hmm.
so yes, video always keeps you top of mind. People remember you, but it's the consistency of working on your personal brand. It's not just having the video cover letter and using it. It's doing other posts, other supporting posts, and using that and always remaining top of mind where you can leverage your personal brand. And when there's a bad situation like a layoff, a tough situation, you can
Hmm.
bounce back a lot quicker than someone who's then now starting scrambling to fix their resume, scrambling to apply to places.
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you for that, Rona. Damien, Damien's laid off more than 5,000 people in his career, so he kind of understands the gravity of the situation. Go ahead, Damien, rip away.
Well, much like you, Rona, I fell into supervising the layoff because my boss broke her leg 2 days before. And so I was the man on the ground, so to speak, uh, keeping her constantly updated via phone. But as you know, a well-run downsizing is rehearsed. Everyone knows their role. They know what they can say. They know what they can't say. And if everything is planned and timed right, all of those who are going to be affected learn about it about the same time, or at least in the same series of hours. And it was difficult. The company I worked with at that time closed every factory in this state all at once, and did a number of other things. Um, but it was strategic. Um, I'm not quite sure how much sense it made. But again, at this point, I was the outsider looking in. Uh, but I do have a question. Uh, let's say that I am Joe Schmo, and I got caught up in this, and I haven't had a job. I haven't had to look for a job, and this is very common with the type of folk that I see. Haven't had to look for a job for 15 years, 20 years, and I come across and read one of your articles. I get all fired up about my own video. But can you just kind of top line, kind of the nuts and bolts of how you did what you did, so that those who are watching us can get a little better idea of how to do what you are so outstanding at doing?
Yeah, for sure. So the main thing I always like to tell people is, even though you might be making a video cover letter and you think it's about you, it's really not about you. So you have to zero in on what problem you want to solve. Because at the end of the day, employers are hiring people to solve a problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big problem, or if someone needs a customer service agent, it's because they have customers that need support. If someone needs a software engineer, it's because they're building software and they need someone to build it. So focus on the problem that you solve, and center the story in your video around that. Focus on how you solved it, how you've served in the past. It's important, and that's why I always tell people, absolutely don't start your videos with, "Hi, I'm Barnett-Pierce." No, talk about, hook them in with the actual problem that you solve. And that's how you get people to watch more of the video. Then, after you've hooked them in, after they're like, oh, this is a person who knows how to solve this problem that I have, then you can go into who you are, kind of like your background, how you've done it, and always have a call to action.
Ah, good.
So, yeah, because otherwise, I've seen videos as a recruiter, I've seen videos that people have used where there's like, this was an awesome video. How do I contact this person? The truth is, I'm not going to go search to see how to contact you. I'm not going to click around. You have to tell me in the video. So that's what I always tell people. So when I went to write the script for my video, because now I don't do scripted videos, but when I started, obviously I did. I wanted to make sure that I said what I needed to say in the video. I
Mm-hmm.
thought about who I was going to help and how I had helped people similar to them in the past. And then at the end, I told them exactly what I wanted to do. Send me an email here, download my resume here, that type of thing. So make it about
Yeah.
them. Keep it short. That's also very important. Keep it short and give them a call to action.
Which,
Do
by the
you
way, I
have?
think is very. I was going to say it's a what you said, that last part I think is really essential. I automatically thought about the time when I used to write everything before I typed it. Now I can do on top of my head because I had enough practice. And that's the same subset, so to speak, right? Is
Yeah.
that you can think, that you're able to think and just go along with it. Like doing these videos that I've been doing the past couple of years, I was scared to death of doing the videos. I didn't want to do it, but I pushed myself because that was one of the, I'll go through the process, I'll make the mistakes, but in the end, I love the end product now because it's very easy to do once you do it. And I think that's where people get stuck. They get stuck getting started. And they think that, that people go on to do
Mhm.
these things very naturally when it's work to do it. And if you're
Oh,
willing to put in that work to get to the end product, is definitely well worth it. And you can apply it anywhere, but particularly in this case, video and being able to communicate the way that you want to with the emotion you want to, and all of that, as opposed to being stuck with a script, is a completely different experience. But it's a freedom. It's not a liability, and it's not like you're stuck doing things.
mhm. Um, Rona, do you have any uh, nuts and bolts suggestions about the do's and don'ts of actually, do you use an iPhone? Do you use your computer? What about the lighting? Just a couple things that our viewers, who again may have never done a video, should think about, before they turn their phone on and just start recording.
Yeah. So I always recommend, if you have an iPhone or even the Samsung, the really good smartphones, use that camera because it's most likely going to be better than your webcam.
Mhm.
So, and it's just easier. Everyone knows how to use it. So, a lot of my YouTube videos that you see were on an iPhone at first. So, yes, you don't need fancy equipment. You can use an iPhone. As far as lighting, you also don't have to have studio lighting. Use natural lighting. And I always tell people, don't get in front of a window, in front, not behind. So in front of a window so that you can have that natural light coming in, and do it at a time of the day where light is more balanced. So I don't like filming kind of like at noon where the sun is like on its point, but 2 o'clock. Some clouds actually really help with the lighting when you're doing video. And then an important thing is your audio. If you're using
Mhm.
an iPhone, those have really good mics, and also the Android phones. If you have a phone where the mic isn't that good, maybe consider getting a lavalier mic. They're like less than $20 on Amazon. So that's also good. So lighting, a decent camera, and audio are the most important things for your video. And definitely knowing what you're going to say. If you have a script, don't read it off. Like I always tell people, yes, you can have your script, but don't have the paper in front of you and kind of like read it like this because it's going to be noticed. What I like to do is read two sentences. Like, let's say I'm going to say, I don't know, let's say I'm going to say, finding great employees isn't always easy, but keeping them around is even harder. I think that's a line in one of my videos. I would read that line off of the piece of paper and then put down the paper and then say that to the camera.
Mhm.
Then take another line and say that, because it's a lot easier to edit spaces out, the spaces where you're looking at the paper to memorize your line, than to try to fix someone not looking at the camera. You really just can't. If you're looking at your script, if you look really red, like you're reading, it doesn't come off natural, and your video will do the opposite of what you're wanting it to do.
Mhm. Thank you.
And that's great information. And I think people really, yeah, I've used iPhone and a webcam. I'm about to take a next step here in probably within uh, probably this year in buying the actual, real camera for video. But I'm still thinking about it. But I think it's a good investment, especially if you're running a business or if you're really serious about your personal brand and you're looking at doing maybe an ongoing series. That's a very good investment. But if you already have a phone, there's no reason why you can't get started in doing it. And understand, again, it's practice. But I definitely want to talk a little bit about the better situation and how important it is that layoffs are, and how it can really, if you have some digital assets, is what some of us in the industry will call it. Talking about videos, articles, podcasts that you've been on, those things are assets. Now, especially if you could start putting it in front of people and putting it more in front of people, because they get to know who you are a whole lot quicker by hearing your voice, hearing your story, hearing the advice that you give, or even if you're just having a conversation, even if it's casual. People, I've heard of employers just overhearing a conversation. They like the person's personality, and therefore got them interested in bringing them on to their company. And I tell you, I say it all the time that companies don't train personalities. They can't. They have to go find them. And if once they find somebody with a great personality, then they're willing to have a next level conversation, rather than who are you and why do you want this job. Those questions suck. To the greatest degree, those are the worst questions. They never really get to know you. They fill time with that question. But that's Mr. Dyson's lesson on interviewing. That's for another time. But one thing I do want to cover about personal branding that I think is really important, that's related to this, is for the fact that personal brand has to show up in Google. That is where recruiters start to do their searches for the most part. And if they're doing LinkedIn, they're doing Google, whatever search engine. So, what can, in your estimation, in 2022, Rona, what can people do to show up better in Google or in the search engines as far as their brand is concerned?
Leverage social media. Like, yes, I'm always an advocate for owning your own piece on the internet, having your website and everything, but the SEO game for that is it's the long game. But if you start optimizing your LinkedIn profile, really put the keywords that people are searching for in there. Have some videos on YouTube also with the keywords that people are searching. Those results are always going to be at the top of Google way before anything else that you do. But it's important, even if your LinkedIn profile is optimized, even if you have a video on YouTube, it's the consistency, it's posting time and time again that gets you at the top and gets you ranking on Google for keywords.
Mm-hmm.
And that's and I think one of the things that way that people search is very important too. And in other words, if you are, showing up everywhere with your name as the same way every time. Some people I see, they'll have their whole middle name in one place, and then they'll have the initial and next, and then there's no initial at all. It's just their name. Where, especially if you have a generic name, then you're in trouble because there's a number of people with the same name. So I think when people looking, they need to show up every time. When I go to conferences or do press or I do other podcasts, is Mark Anthony Dyson.
Yep.
Only reason why that it's not that is Mark A. Dyson on Twitter is because Mark Anthony Dyson doesn't fit in the whole thing. So I have to stick my middle initial. But everywhere else, in Facebook shows Mark A. But my LinkedIn profile, my other places where I am is Mark Anthony Dyson. But I think it's really important that people think about showing up and having their name consistent so that they're recognized by their name. So in case I meet you at a conference or I meet you in a video, presentation where there's a bunch of people, and I want to Google you and find out who you are in a deeper way, it's easier for me to do so rather than to just have you in just having one version of your name. So I think just try to be consistent and along those lines, not just the video portion. Damien, you had a question?
No, I think everything that you both have been saying is absolutely true. I think our viewers may know this, but as soon as you do a LinkedIn profile, you can Google your name, and you will pop up. And just knowing that you are Googleable uh, should be a strong enough motivator for folks to make sure that they have their LinkedIn profile robust, full of keywords, complete, uh, full things, and added things like video, articles that you've written, and so on and so forth, so that when a person does find you, whether they search for you on Google or they find you on LinkedIn, you are putting your best foot forward. And then one other thing when it comes to brand building, and uh, Rona already talked about this, but what I tell folks at Professionals in Transition is your LinkedIn profile is a living, breathing presence for you on the internet. And there is no such thing in my mind as a static profile, because I will see things, I will add things to my profile, I will take things off my profile, I will modify it based on things that I learn.
Mhm.
And you have to be sensitive to this, because LinkedIn has algorithms that the more you learn, the more responsive your LinkedIn profile can become. And there are articles that just uh, Google LinkedIn algorithms, and several articles will come up and discuss how you do that. Because again, the more findable you are, the more effective your job search is going to be.
And a lot of
Not
people
only,
focus
go ahead, Rona.
a lot of people focus a lot on their name part of thing, thinking that everyone that's going to Google you is going to be Googling your name. And yeah, that does happen, definitely, for sure. But I like to tell my clients, even when you're sharing an article on LinkedIn that someone else wrote, or when you're commenting on LinkedIn, keep in mind your keywords and use those. Because that's what, when someone's searching for software engineer or React Native developer, be sure to use that strategically, that keyword, as you're commenting on LinkedIn, as you're sharing articles, as you're writing posts. Because when a recruiter is searching for React Native software, React Native engineer, React Native developer, now you're coming up, now you're competing, and now you're getting a seat at that keyword search on Google.
Mhm. That's very important, the keyword aspect. But I'll even take it a little bit further, and it's going to go a little bit out there, but I think it's very important. And that is, it's very important for you to make it a practice to search yourself on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of press writing and publishing, so I'm searching myself weekly, and there might be several times that I'll search myself on a weekly basis, but that's another story. But you should do that often, more often than you're actually doing it now, because one, you can monitor not just how you're showing up, but also what other people may be saying about you. Because I know when I was doing client work back in the day, uh, there was one time this one client was really surprised to show up in a news report, and not in a very positive way. So in essence, there had now the work begins. You got to start putting out content, and putting out good content to push down the bad content to make that irrelevant. But there's another thing too that I think is really important to understand, and with what it has to do with video. Google is, in fact, all the search engines now are featuring Google in their results. So LinkedIn is probably the first and foremost that will search. If you search your name, if you have a LinkedIn profile, even if it's not a perfect one, that's going to be the first one that comes up in the search results, is LinkedIn. The other thing we might come in, if you have a website, not necessarily a YouTube channel. We can argue that part of it later. but your website will come under that LinkedIn. More than likely, the recruiter is going to go to your LinkedIn first because that's where they can dig a little bit deeper on you. But if you have good videos and they're being featured by Google, especially when it comes to your name, then you get to reap the benefit of them knowing you a whole lot closer and a little bit more intimate by engaging the video. So you give them that option, but more than likely they'll also come back because LinkedIn is not going to feature video the same way Google does. So you give them a choice, and whatever that, and that's what people are going to like. And that's, I'm talking to recruiters, that's the way they really get to know you, is that, yeah, they could search for your qualifications and they can ignore the video, but a lot of them won't ignore it because they want to get to know you. So when you think about your coming up in Google, think about how things will rank and how things will look. And if you're doing it the right way, you can give somebody just enough information to, again, to subvert the process of applying, clicking the apply button, and for them to reach out to you instead, which is really the ultimate compliment, is when somebody demands you, asking what your prices are, as opposed to going through the application process and then wondering what your prices are. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
I think that's all good stuff. Ed, Damien, did you have anything else to add? Or
no, I was
ready?
just going to say that it really makes a lot of sense. And for those of you who are relatively new to the market, I would highly encourage you to follow Mark and Rona, because as you're finding out, the job market has shifted dramatically, and search engine optimization has become critical on your resume, critical in your videos, critical on your LinkedIn profile. I can't overestimate that uh, enough. And so one of the keys is by following both of the folks that are with us today. That's what I want to say.
And Damien, he's just trying to be humble and stuff. So yeah. Anyway, finally, other than video, I'd like to ask you two, what are the most significant changes that potentially, or maybe it does, enhance somebody's brand on LinkedIn and emphasizing LinkedIn? And of course, we could talk about everywhere else, but I think what's most significant is that people are missing out by not using LinkedIn. But as far as the changes, let's say even in the past couple of years, that you've seen that really gives people the opportunity to enhance not just their presence, but their brand.
I think for sure the creator mode last year when they launched that, and now that everyone has access to
Mm.
it, it's very powerful, especially for your brand, because it puts the focus of your LinkedIn profile, if you turn on creator mode, on your featured articles or your featured post where you can decide what's featured, and your post in general, and your about section. And just like telling that story and telling you, and it pushes down the experience and the laundry list of things that, yeah, they'll get to that, but it lets you control the narrative of your personal brand and what you show to people. And I know you said not video, but I think the fact that LinkedIn launched the cover story, which is that 30-second intro video, is so
Mm.
powerful for your personal brand. And it's 30 seconds of gold where you could use it. So like your headline with with that 30-second video in your cover story, and then creator mode, that's like gold for your personal brand.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You're forgiven. You're the guest that actually you're the guest who actually put the glass on the table without using the coaster. So kind of cheated, but we'll let you get away with that one. Damien.
When you use the creator mode, and this is being rolled out through LinkedIn, LinkedIn rolls out features in a very interesting way, in that it feels like it's random, but they they divide it up and parcel it out, but look for the ability to do a newsletter that you can write yourself. And really, some of the most effective newsletters that I've seen are very well written content with video inserted in the newsletter. And I haven't taken advantage of it myself, but I need to. But by having that, that is a long form way for you to communicate your good content and videos that you can insert. Because I think the last one that I saw had 3 videos in it, and you control how often you publish it. It can be every week, 2 weeks, it can be every month. But the most important thing is focus on getting the content right. Then do your resumes, then do your videos, then get somebody else to proof it for you, A through Z, because the last thing you want to do is create this boost to your profile and have glaring errors. And if you do not have it yet, keep your eye out because it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. I'm going to roll with the section behind your profile picture. I think that's a very impressive the first contact when they see your picture and then they see what's behind you. That tells a story. I think, and it's a story that you can't forget. And at one point, when we were doing the streamings, that's where you could see this video was in the hostess or whoever had the link to the show. You could see the cover story right there. Not the cover story in the way that, but the cover art in the back of the profile. You could see the video in back of there. And even though that wasn't particularly the focus of it, but most of the time it's whatever you put back there. That is unused real estate. And it's very interesting because LinkedIn recently gave some examples of people who had great profile headshots and all that. And a lot of people who they had as an example did not use that space at all. And I'm going, what a waste. And I also thought, how can that be a great profile if they don't use that part? Because it was blank, it was generic, it was like nothing, like somebody didn't take any time, much less the other parts of it we can have about the conversations of it all. But it's like it was a really recent LinkedIn article. And I was really shocked at how a lot of people who they said had a great profile didn't have any cover art whatsoever. So I think that it could be a very powerful impression you can make, and you could either make a statement or use a quote or do something, even if it's a different color than your headshot. That's a lot more effective than leaving it at the original template, which is really nothing. So people wasting that particular time. Anyway, we are 4 minutes to the hour. And I know I've got to run right after this, but Rona, what you got coming up that people might be interested in and might want to follow?
So I'm going to be launching coaching specifically for content creation for LinkedIn in the next couple of months. So anyone who wants to know about that, please follow me. I'll be posting about that. And just in general, every week I send tips for job searching and personal branding to my email list every Wednesday. So if you really want to get the tips that I only share with my email list, you can follow me on LinkedIn, and you can also see there, you'll see how to join my email list.
Fantastic. Damien?
This happened out of the blue. I just completed an interview with Business Insider. And of course, you only get a small amount of quote after answering 10 or 15 questions.
Yeah. And if they don't put it behind a paywall.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, I did the interview. It was sent in. Hopefully, I will get a pub date. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But it was really exciting because the reporter sent me an email and said, "We get to work together again! Yay!" So that made me feel good. So thank you, Mark.
Awesome.
And as always, people are more than welcome to join us via Zoom at our where we do our live meetings um, every Thursday night from 7 until 8:30 p.m. At the American Red Cross. Thanks, Mark.
Awesome. All right.
How
Well,
about
thank you.
you?
Me, you can go to lenza.com/insights. I have an article there on information on interviews. And I have a slightly little wrinkle that I came up with. In fact, we talked a little bit about it last week, I think.
Hmm.
But I'm really proud of that. I thought it was a pretty good guide that we ended up with. So you can see that there. I usually publish every week there. It's a client of mine. Uh, and they really just let me be me, which is kind of fun. Um, and I can say that if you understand how to freelance write and all the things that writers go through very often for different publishers, that's a whole other ball of wax we could talk about one day. But yeah, and we'll be back here next Friday as we have another guest for that week. And I think that's about all I have for right now. It's 1 minute to the hour. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Modern Job Search Checklist. We are here every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock Central. We'd love that you're able to join us either before or most of you will join us after the live here. And of course, it's on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us. Peace in the Valley of Love. We'll see you next week.